Welcome back to the 626 podcast.
We're back. Back again.
Back again, and this time we are talking about money. I like how you did the Mr. Krabs immediately.
I always do Mr. Krabs.
Mr. Krabs, money.
I need to do a little flashback of that.
It's also kind of impressive that Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob is now what our kid watches.
I know, I love it.
That's what we grew up with.
He knows every word to the Rip Pants song. So
he does, and he sings
and
it religiously. It's incredible.
But anyways, we're talking about money.
We are talking about money. This came up because of TikTok that actually you saw.
Yes, I did.
That kind of sparked it. And then like a lot of people had asked us, a lot of people have been asking.
Ugh.
It's true though, because we did, so like, I guess start there, which is like, we are very open about like, we are very strict on like, we follow a budget.
Yes.
We keep track of a budget. So like, we're very open about that when people were like, hey, like, especially for me with golf, it's like, hey, do you want to go golf here? I'm like, oh man, I'm out of golf budget this month actually.
Yeah. Sorry, so I can't do it. Like, come at me next month.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I know we have had questions about like, well, what is it that you guys use? And like, do you budget? Like, how do you do that? And I'm like, well, Scott's a freak of nature and he likes Excel spreadsheets and stuff, which is what it started out as. Like,
I'm a freak and I am in nature.
You get like thorough enjoyment of budgeting and like processes and all of that stuff. And I love that about you.
Formulas on Excel are my love language.
Not me at all.
No.
Which is okay. But yeah, no, I saw a TikTok.
You were on the TikTok?
I was scrolling through. I've seen several, but there was one in particular of this girl and she was crying, which, I mean, we can all relate to this. The economy is insane right now.
I do cry, yes.
Yeah, we all cry.
The economy part, yeah.
But the economy is insane. And she was upset that she couldn't pay her bills. Like, she lives off a credit card and not in the good way. Like, not.
Oh, I don't like hearing that.
Not the healthy way. And so she, makes this video and she's like, is anyone else having trouble and like just living your day-to-day life and affording groceries and like paying your rent and just trying to be alive? Like, and she's single.
Yeah.
And, and I'm like, dang girl, like that hits. Yes, absolutely. But then, there were a lot of people commenting and they were like, okay, but your nails are brand new, like perfectly done. You've got injections, Botox, all that kind of stuff. And so she made a follow-up video and she was like, yeah, of course I do. If any of you think that I'm not going to be getting my Botox, I mean, it's like once a year that I do this, or if any of you think I'm not going to get my nails done, like I'm not that, I have to have them. And then she also said, oh, well, and if you think that I'm not going on my group friend trip to, I don't even know where, I'll say Cancun or something, is it going to go on the credit card? Yeah, it is. But you know what? Mental health, and it was just I was like, but you did what?
Oh, that makes me so mad.
Yeah.
So it makes me think of like the meme that we see a lot of floating around now, which is like the one that's like, your Starbucks coffee costs $7. And if you go once a week, it's this much money and this much a year. And that's not enough to do anything. So go ahead and treat yourself. You deserve it.
Yeah.
And it's a counter to the other side of that joke, which is like, if you just take that money and put it into a Roth IRA, you have this much money. And it's like, both of those arguments are they're memes. They're caricatures of the actual argument.
Yeah.
Which is why I get so annoyed, because like that's how we get information now. So people are actually going to apply that kind of dumb information to themselves. Like, you're not going to find an account that gets 100% return. That doesn't exist.
God, I wish.
And you're also, okay, maybe you can do Starbucks and get a coffee every single week for a year and you won't hurt you and it's not going to help you buy a house. But you know what is going to affect it? It's the multiple trips and the things that you're adding on to that. Yeah. And it's the, I'm not giving up my Botex. My Botex. I'm not giving up the Botex. I'm not giving up I'm not giving up my Botox and I'm not giving up my nails. Fine, you could theoretically say that, but something tells me just based on how she's saying it that it's not just the Botox and it's not just the nails. It's okay, next week it's going to be
the coffee on the way to work.
I have to get the coffee this week. Yeah, I know, but mental health can't give this up. I could do this. No, mental health, I can't give this up.
Which I'm all for, and I know you had said this, like I'm all for, like, yes, mental health is a big deal. Like, absolutely.
I'm not pro Dave Ramsey with that approach. But.
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't know. That confuses me because I'm very much like, from a freelance perspective and with our job,
Yeah.
Like it's a very fluid kind of, some months are more and some months are less. Like, and you have to be able to like shift and adjust. And it's just very like there's times where you just have to be like, oh, well, you know what? Like as an example, unfortunately, I can't get my nails done this month, and that's fine. I'll just grab, the nail polish that I have and I'll paint my nails at home. Like
Yeah.
it's not like that just doesn't seem like a very safe, responsible mindset.
It's kind of feels like it's the classic I'm going to kind of kick the can down the road kind of thing. So it's like we use a lot of excuses as mental health. And listen, mental health is so important and it is absolutely crucial, but it's like I feel like these types of people, I hate doing that, but it does feel like the people who are saying things like that are also the people who are like, they wouldn't pay for like a therapist or BetterHelp or anything like that. They'd give that up to make sure they can still get their Botox and their nails and stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it feels like to me.
I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair.
Those people are like,
opinion.
oh, I've got to get some more coffee and Botox this month. I guess I have to cancel my BetterHelp subscription. Yeah, like whatever it is. Like that's kind of what it feels like. I'm hoping that's not true. I'm hoping I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But like it does feel to me like that because I don't know. There is when financial situations are bad, like they are right now in the United States, where it's difficult. And like the weird thing is the economy in the United States isn't bad. It's just not where it was. And we're like, it's awful. It's terrible. Everything's expensive. But it's also like not where it could be. Like,
Yeah. I mean, but I did realize, since I started being involved in like the budgeting and like looking at how much we have per month and what we have allotted for this and this and this, you look at the cost of groceries.
Yes.
What?
That has gone up.
Insane.
Yeah. And that has gone up a lot. I think also it's gone up at certain places.
Yes. No, exactly. Because there are it's, we obviously don't shop at specific places anymore because they are more expensive.
Yeah.
And we could get the same thing at this other place for like $4 cheaper.
Yeah.
So, and that's a sacrifice because, you usually shop at this place and this place has all this stuff, but you go over here, but it's like, I don't know. It's all crazy because, or at least it feels like it's crazy because it doesn't feel, and I know I said this to you and you were like, well, not quite, but like, it doesn't feel like the income is rising along with the cost of living.
Yeah. I mean, from a political standpoint, it's not. It's like income has risen. It's going up. It's always been going up. It's not but it hasn't been able to go up at the price of the measurement of inflation and the price of how much goods are costing and things like that. Mm-hmm. So we measure inflation in the United States with something called the CPI, which is the Consumer Price Index, which takes into account month over month goods and services, things like that, how much their prices on average have increased over time. So like wrapping your head around the idea of inflation, people think that if you just print more money, the money loses value because there's more of it. Kind of. That's really the byproduct of what happens with inflation. Inflation is more people have spending power because there is more money. So like think of COVID, everybody got checks and things like that and given to them. So like they had more money. So therefore they could buy more goods. And because they were buying more goods,
put it back into the economy.
Well, the demand on the goods increased.
Okay.
So because like, let's say there's, Apple's making an iPhone, they're selling it for $100 and 5 people buy it. Well, they're probably not making money, so they might discount it. But if 100 people want the iPhone at $100, they can raise the price and reduce that number because they only need to sell 50 to break even.
Yeah.
So that's really what ends up happening across the board is that people raised prices because the demand became really intense on it.
Yeah.
And as the demand increased, people were like, okay, we're going to raise the price on it to reduce the demand because we have limited supply and demand economics. That's a whole nother video we could do about that because that's like the primary part of economics.
What a fun
And that
topic.
increases the price on the thing. And then as the prices increase, that was what we defined as inflation causing an increase in pricing.
Oh, okay.
Inflation's good in small doses. Like you want to have in currency that inflates and like you want to have more of it in the system and you want to see prices slowly increase. You don't want to deflate your currency. Mm-hmm. But a little bit of inflation's good. The Federal Reserve usually targets like 2%. We were at like 3, 4, 5. It was pretty high at some points. And it's gone down. It's mostly stabilized. we're not seeing these huge increases. But the problem was we saw such big increases over time on the cost of living, on gas, which is always fluctuating,
That's always,
on
yeah.
groceries. But then what also happens in that is we end up with like it's a recession spiral, it's an inflation spiral. It is stagnation is also what they call it. It's basically the inflation stays around because people have extra money, so they're buying these goods, putting the demands on goods. But then the people working in these jobs, because the goods have gone up in price, are demanding higher wages to be able to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So then when the companies increase their wages, they don't want to tap into their profits. So then they're going ahead and raising the cost back on the consumers, and it becomes this never-ending spiral upward.
It's like a circular firing squad.
It's like a circular firing squad, but I like to think of it as like a tornado because it's kind of always just going up. You know, circling firing squad generally has a quick end.
That's fair.
This doesn't seem to have an end. It just keeps going.
This one just keeps going.
So the idea is that generally you just raise interest rates really. This is how economics usually works, is like raise interest rates really high. The economy goes into a recession, slows everything back down, and then inflation stops going up. What they're trying to do now is a little different. Slowly slow everything down so that we don't, you pull a brake on a car, it's going to slam.
Yeah.
It's going to slam fast. They're trying not to do that. So that's a long political explanation for like, yeah, we are seeing where wages are going up,
but not as
fast as inflation and the prices on goods and things, which is why it feels like it's harder now than it has been.
Yeah.
And it might still get harder, but I also don't believe that it's impossible. Mm-hmm. The reality is it's becoming like there are certain things within economies that are hard now or almost impossible. Like I think owning a home in the United States is dang near impossible.
Oh my Lord, have mercy.
It's almost impossible right now to be able to do that.
And frankly, a little discouraging.
It is very discouraging.
Or a lot discouraging, yeah.
It is very discouraging. And there's a lot of things that we can go into for that and why that's a bigger issue. And, that's a whole nother video on its own. But
if you would like an episode on that.
Yeah. It's very difficult to like try to establish and understand like what you're supposed to do in those situations. Like owning a home just isn't feasible to a lot of people. And that's just the reality of how it's going to be now.
Yeah.
But I don't think like living is impossible. Like I think you can still live, you can still make a living, you can still save a little. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that's going to come from the decisions you make early on in life.
Yes, which then leads into, budgeting and being mindful of, finances and all that, because it's, and obviously we're going to be very clear. This is not financial advice in this episode at all.
I don't think anyone looking at the two of us is like, man, those guys are going to have a wealth of financial advice.
They have it together. Yeah, no, but I also don't want someone to be like, hey, I tried the thing and then it did it, but it's like, it's more so this is what we do. And I would have loved, I think this stemmed from like, I would have loved to have had something like this, to have watched and been like, oh, dang, that's super practical. Okay, maybe I'll try that, because it really is like your budget is personal to you, and how you do it and how you run it is also personal to you, because everyone has their strengths.
Yeah, it's exactly, because everyone's income strategy is different. Everybody's spending habits are different. Their requirements and needs are different.
I mean, ours is different in the sense that like we work for ourselves.
And we also have a small minion that eats all of our food.
A tiny minion and another one on the way. Yeah. And, a German Shepherd who's asleep over here. Yeah. But like,
Who also eats all of our food.
Well, she eats her food. She has a cheese stick every now and then. But I'm like that, stuff like that. I have been, because I know we have talked about like, it comes across very patriarchal of like the man takes care of the budget and like the woman just takes care of the kids and all that stuff. But it's also like in our circumstance, you're very, very good at it.
Yeah.
And
I love being a good spreadsheet.
Yes. You love a spreadsheet. You love organization. You love structure. You love budgeting. You love making sure that we stay within things and like all of that, which I am thankful for. Mm-hmm. Because if it were up to me, I wouldn't spend anything.
Yeah. I think there's a historical reason for that too. Cause like, I think it's important to say, like, listen, we know families who are like the woman handles the finances or the, like,
Heck yeah.
and that's totally fine. Like, this is not to be a patriarchal, like only the man can do it. And it's like,
Who's
no,
the best with the numbers and who's the best with the spreadsheets?
yeah, that's who should manage the money. That's what it should come down to. It really
Yes.
should be like whoever's that is. Historically, though, it's been men because of the fact that like women weren't in the workforce, so they didn't have a reason to be in charge of money, and because of that, like that was largely passed down to
a
every
generational
thing.
Yeah.
And I think we're breaking that now, which I think is good because I think everyone should learn money, be responsible
Yes.
for it, and figure it out,
And
and figure out the strategy that works best for them.
And I do wish that, like, which I think, I think you had said they're starting to introduce it in schools, or
Yeah, I think they are starting to introduce it into schools. I think Florida has something going on with it. This may be a question for like if we do an education episode to really learn more about it, but there is a lack of practical skills in schools.
There is, and like that's the sad part, because I mean, yes, book smarts are important, and learning math and reading and writing, all of those things, yes, but we also need like functional societal type things to be taught, and
Yeah.
we are not taught budgeting or interest rates, loans, credit cards, how to responsibly use a credit card. Like there's an actual way to responsibly use a credit card, like because a lot
Dave
of times
Ramsey would say no.
well, Dave Ramsey's not here, so
Yeah.
but that was more of like just looking at that. I feel like a lot of people don't have an education in it, in that sense. Like they're not educated in it, is what I should say.
Yeah.
And because I've learned a lot in the last few years that I didn't know. I mean, I did know that my mom, when she first gave me a credit card, was like, you're using it for gas. We're going to start building credit, because it's a necessary thing. And, she was like, don't spend the whole rule. Cause she's like, I have learned this through my own mistakes, which is mistakes and, things like that are the best teachers. But she said, do not spend on your credit card, which you do not have in pocket to pay off.
Yeah.
So, and that was something that I always operated on, but I've learned a lot more since getting married and having to actually be an adult. So, it's like, but I just I figured, well, why the heck don't we just walk through how we
do our budget,
how we do things,
and see how people like can apply. So yeah, I guess take this advice.
Yes.
Take it and look at it from like process it through your own stuff, and then kind of figure out how you can take nuggets and stuff and apply it to your situation and what works best. That makes sense.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I think I have.
Yeah. I think that obviously the first place to start is like, who needs a budget?
Budget. It pays to have a budget. That's
I was thinking of Storybots.
the Storybot song.
So
it's
a great
really
song.
good. It's
it
a good
pays
song.
to have a budget is like great. This is one of my favorite lines because it literally pays to have a budget. If you don't have a budget, you're letting the mindset is often like it has to be, if you don't manage your finances are going to manage you. Mm-hmm. Because it's plain and simple. Finances do not go away. They do not suddenly just get easy. They are always going to be there. This is a fact of life. It is the reality of being an adult. There is no way to get around it outside of winning the lottery. And even then, you still got to manage that money.
Still got to manage the money.
Like, you have to figure out how to do this in a real way. And a lot of times, because it's complicated or it's stressful, people don't want to do it. Or because they don't have the money they want to be able to do the things they want. Because, like, the income doesn't match their desires. They end up going, I'm just not going to worry about it. I just don't want to deal with this.
Yeah, which also, that's what I kind of fall into, of like, if it stresses me out, then I just avoid it.
Yeah, I think people will do that. And I think people will like fall into those situations because here's the reality. People will be like, I've worked hard. I deserve to have something to show for it.
Yeah, which that thought process can very much get you in trouble.
It can unravel incredibly fast. And it's like, great, you could have something today to show for what you've done. But wouldn't it be better to have something for tomorrow to be able to show for that?
Yeah.
Like, here's what I mean by that. Like, we specifically are in the freelance world, and like we do business, and like we do a business.
We do a business.
Like, we're in the freelance world. We have to have our income's a little different than most. But like, the reality to all that is like we have to be able to manage that money. We have to be able to know where it's going. And we have to be able to understand that like us mismanaging it means we might not have an exit strategy. We might not have a way out of freelance. Like, and this is one of the things I do all the time when I'm like coaching or talking to people about business is like, okay, they got their business going. What's your exit strategy? What is your plan to get out of this?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going to work till so and so. Are you going to get Social Security? Is that your only option? Is that on your plan? Like, do you have a retirement? Do you have anything? Do you have anything put away? Do you even own a stock? Like, it has never been, like, when I was growing up, my mom was very big into, like, we need to get you invested. We need to get you into some stocks and some bonds and some things like that. Like, find a way to do
Big
it.
on saving money, too.
And it was very difficult growing up to do that because you had to go to a wealth advisor, you had to go to a financial person, you had to buy it through there or had to call some. It was never an easy process.
Yeah.
Today, you can download an app and buy a stock in like 5 minutes. I mean, it is beyond easy and so accessible to get to that I think it's very crucial that like people take those parts in it. And listen, you don't have to be a financial wizard to go anywhere to be able to plan for retirement and have money saved away.
Yeah.
Like you can literally, like, there is a benefit to being this time. Like with interest rates as high as they are, like we have Redneck Bank, which is giving us like,
oh my gosh.
yes,
I love it.
Our bank is one of our banks is called Redneck Bank.
Our bank card has a squirrel on it.
It does have a squirrel. It's called Where Banking is Funner.
It's real though. Like that's the thing. Like,
it is a legitimate bank. They give
like,
us almost 6% interest on our
researched
account.
into it, looked into it. Like it is
I
a
love
bank.
the bank.
It
I
is
have
fantastic.
One of the best banks I've ever had. I want to make sure that's clear.
Fantastic. You talked to someone.
I literally
when you
called
call
in.
customer
I
service.
didn't have to go on hold. They literally answered the phone, and the lady took care of it on the phone. And I was off the phone in like 2 seconds. There was
it
no
was
hold.
fantastic.
I'm not sure there's a lot of people on that bank, but it's incredible for 6% interest.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's insane. Like it's a great account. I love the account.
Just love it.
So,
I love
anyway.
that it's Redneck Bank.
Redneck Bank. But like my point in that is like, yeah, interest rates are high, but like there's a benefit to get returns on it. Like, you know, you can buy stocks now super easy. You don't have to be super awesome at figuring this out. You can just get an ETF on the broad market and just ride the S&P 500 and go with that.
You were saying so many things.
So an ETF, we'll get into that on the retirement side. Let's talk about our budget and talk about how like the importance of that. So first thing you have to do with a budget is get a budget. You have to be able to budget. You have to write down.
Put your numbers in front of your face.
Yes, 100%. Put down what you're bringing in. Put down what you're spending. Write everything down. Look at your account. Look over the course of a year.
Subscriptions? What, what payments do you have? Do you have a mortgage? Do you have a rent? Do you have, what do you spend on groceries? Like all of that.
And don't try to do it from your memory. Here's why. Because like, yes, you'll probably get your reoccurring purchases in there. You'll probably get like, okay, I know I spend this much on Netflix and this much on Hulu and this much on Disney Plus and this much, which all adds up to equal what cable used to cost. You add all that up. And like those are your reoccurring spending habits. Fine. You can track those. The ones you need to go back through and look at your bank account and look at your statements and research your history is because there's things like, okay, I spent this much at Walmart and this much at Target. Oh, I went to this much at Starbucks. I did all of these things. Because you can look at your
habits.
That's what you have to do. You have to see your habits and figure out, oh man, we're spending a lot at this place. Or hey, we're losing a lot of money here.
The little stuff adds up to be the most. And I'm like, every time I think about it, when it comes from the standpoint of the I deserve it mentality, with that blended with the small little expenditures here and there, those two add up to be such a problem.
Yeah.
Such a problem.
Exactly. It's not so much the like, yes, you can buy your Starbucks, you can buy your things, you can have those things to be entertainments and help you mental health wise. They're great. They'll get you through a lot of situations. The problem is they're probably accompanied by other habits that are bad. Mm-hmm. They're probably accompanied by like, oh, I can't go to Target without buying this because I deserve it. I had to go to Starbucks and get this because I deserve it. I had to go do this because I deserved it because I this, and this. And it's like, those are fine by themselves, but they're rarely alone. They're usually piled up with other habits that get you. And all of them can be avoided by getting right in front of you and seeing where the money is going. Yeah. And then from there, it's really about mental discipline and being strong enough to get over that.
Which is tough.
Which is hard. And I think there is anecdotally probably, there is at least a strong correlation between people with very strong mental discipline and their ability to be financially responsible and literate. So I do think that that's a big part in this is like you have to have the mental strength to be able to go in there because you're resisting temptation. You're literally going, hey, I want to walk into, it's like being on a diet and walking into a room of donuts.
Ugh.
And going, everyone's offering you a donut and going, no, thank you. 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 Okay, fine. I'll just take a little bite.
I'll just take a nibble.
And it's like,
and a nibble turns into a huge bite, turns into a whole donut, turns into 2, turns into 3. I mean, it's like a snowball.
And there are some people that can do that. Like, I know for a fact, I have no problem walking in because I've had it happen. Every time I'm on set filming, I'll walk in and everybody's like, there's donuts on the table. And I'm always, no, I'm good.
You pull a Drake.
It's not easy. I'm not going to pretend like it's super easy. I'm just always like, no,
No, keep it away from me. Thank you.
I'm good. But also, I know that if it ever got to the point where I was like, man, I'm really hungry and all they have is a donut, I know I generally always have a snack bar in the car or something that I can go back to be like, this will at least get me through to find something healthier.
Which leads us to guardrails.
Which leads to guardrails, which is what your budget should be.
Yes.
Your budget should become your guardrails.
So I know that you had talked about, like, you know, when we hit on that TikTok I saw where she was like, that's my line. I don't, something. We're not, I'm not giving that up. I'm not giving that up. Whereas like, you know, we do have the things that I would say we have the things we would prefer not to give up. Like we would prefer not to give up certain subscriptions. We would prefer not to give up, you know, this, that, and the other.
Oh, absolutely.
But from a guardrail standpoint, like, we have those things in tiers where like, okay, if we get like in a situation financially where we're like, we gotta give up something, you know, we'll give these things up first. And then if it keeps on and that's not enough, then we'll give these things up next. Like, you know, but that was, I think guardrails is a very important thing.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast. If you enjoy the 626 podcast, the best thing you can do for us is to share it with a friend and leave a 5-star review. It helps us a lot to get discovered.
And be sure to check us out on Instagram at 626podcast.